Hey, folks, this is Rabbo Roz and Rich Bergeron.
And Psychic Tom Paget with his crystal ball, happy about his predictions. We're ready to go for next week.
Yeah, it was a pretty decent card there. The UFC card that I put together on the lineups. I mean, just wasn't my night at all. I didn't even come close to getting in the money. I picked almost every decision there was to pick. I did get one of my favorite fights of the night, Gian Vellante getting knocked out. I picked his opponent. He was nice and cheap, and he paid off. And he was a must-have, but you also had to have a few other knockouts. And I had only decisions, and I unfortunately backed the guy that I should have known better to back, Al Iaquinta. And it's like one of those guys that you like because he speaks out and he trashes Dana White, so you're like, oh, yeah, I'm going to pick him to go back to his old form. But he's been off for 2 years. He has repeatedly said, I make more money selling houses than I do doing this. So,
yeah, that's not good. That's not good to hear that. But yeah, when he was on. But you've got a short window, and what can you say? That phrase, he just got caught. But
yeah, and that was an example too of two guys, Al Iaquinta and Frankie Edgar, both wanting to fight in New York, on a big card, and I was smart enough to bet against Edgar, but I didn't think it was gonna. I thought that was gonna go to decision, and he ended up not getting knocked out in the last few seconds. But oh boy, it was a pretty decent card there. That whole card. And Thug Rose.
I wasn't. Yeah, I didn't pay much.
I was heavy on Thug Rose and Weili Zhang because I watched the preview shows and they hyped it up to be, it's going to be a much closer fight. And Thug Rose got the job done. But yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of worked out for me because I had two screens, and I was in the Plant and Canelo situation, so those other ones were just kind of unfolding at the right time, so I was able to get my full attention to the main event. So,
right. So Marlon Vera pulled a Anderson Silva Vitor Belfort on Frankie Edgar. He gave him the old KO front kick. 10 seconds, no, a minute and 10 seconds left in the third. There, Namajunas, that was a 5-round decision, unanimous for her. She looked pretty dominant. Zhang, there was a lot of hype about her training with Henry Cejudo for the wrestling, and it really didn't help her much, unfortunately for her. But,
and it was a split decision, correct? Yeah.
Oh, it was a split decision. Sorry, I said unanimous.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it was that close, but I don't know. I thought Rose did her job, did what she needed to do. No controversy there as far as who got the nod. But we had Marlon Vera was the one that got the front kick knockout over Frankie Edgar, and of course the main event was pretty exciting. Colby Covington once again was just slightly a step behind. This was a unanimous decision win for Kamaru Usman, and Covington showed that, it was an act. This whole thing of, I'm the best and, there's nothing you can do and you suck and all that stuff. All the hyped up to the fight was just an act, and the referee actually had to break up the love fest after the fight. I don't know if you saw that part, but...
Mm-hmm. I noticed, now I want to get your comment on this. Kobe seemed off a bit when he made his kick walk. Like he was really almost hyperventilating.
Yeah.
And I kind of got a bad feeling. It's like, okay, I don't know, or maybe I was just seeing it wrong, or were you able to watch the whole thing?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I caught that exact moment, but it makes sense because I mean, look at what Kamaru Usman said in the lead up to the fight. You know, this kid knows in his head he's not as good as I am. You know, so and a lot of people like, you know, Iceman John Scully's quote says, you know, the hardest part of a is the time in the dressing room. You know, sometimes because
Oh,
you're
yeah.
just all amped up for this
I mean,
big opportunity.
fights are won and lost. Sometimes fights are won and lost before I can think of my last one. You know, fights are won and lost sometimes before they even get started.
Could also
But
be
it
just
just
a crazy
seemed like
breathing
it was
technique
so
he has.
possible.
We don't know.
Yeah, and it seemed like that. I understand the game plan to try to be cautious early on and don't go berserk. But darn, you know, it got to a point where, come on, you're fighting for the title, and I think 3-2 was a good way to score it. I mean, I think Colby came on, but I can't give him one of those first 3 rounds. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought he did. You know, he did fight cautiously, but he just took too much damage that he didn't need to take. I mean, we're going to get to another guy who did even worse in that category, but I don't know if it's just cockiness or, you know, wanting to put it all out there, but there was just those rounds where he just was just getting hit too many times, especially that 5th round.
Mm-hmm.
Just, you know, he had flashes, but you can't win rounds with flashes. You gotta dominate the entire round.
Well, and again, we say this all the time. When you're the challenger, if it's close, it comes down to this: you've got to take that belt.
Yes, exactly.
You've got to beat the champ. I mean, beat him. Don't expect to get any kind of a fair break if it's close. I thought the decision was fair, 3-2. I mean, I really have no complaints about it. And boy, Colby started going right at it at the after fight press conference, how he wants to fight possible now. So I guess he's and I was surprised when Usman said, "Well, maybe we'll do it a 3rd time." I mean, we're not going to see it anytime soon, but a lot of times when you lose twice, it's hard to get that 3rd shot.
Yeah.
In boxing, Jerry Quarry did against Ali, but that was an anomaly. Oh no, he didn't. I mean, he was trying to. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry he didn't, but there you go. He lost twice. He kept thinking about that 3rd shot, but yeah. So we'll see how it goes, and we'll see what's next for Usman. I mean, I just don't see a whole lot in that division, but we'll see.
Yeah, the UFC's kind of starting to get to that point with some of their champions. There's just nobody left to put them up against. And,
yeah. And it's just that kind of like the like Roy Jones era back in the '90s. Just kind of really going to get, you know, who's going to make it interesting, so he doesn't play basketball in the afternoon of the fight, you know, that kind of stuff. And
but this was a card where most.
But how about the first fight on the main draw? How about that?
You're talking Gaethje versus Chandler. Oh, yeah. It
had a nice picture of them both in the hospital. Put their arm, you know, a nice little.
Yeah, there was a whole story
took a
on
selfie,
that.
but it was.
There was a whole story on that.
You see that? Wow.
They were both supposed to go, and you know,
but
Chandler went first or whatever.
You know,
or
yeah, and
Gaethje went first, and Chandler
I
hopped
really
on his
think
ambulance.
that we nailed it because at that kind of pace, that's the kind of fight that Gaethje thrives on.
Right.
Right there.
Well,
you know,
I mean, Chandler didn't do himself
Chandler
any favors
perfect
by acting so cocky at the end. And you know, granted, he was trying to draw him in so he could land shots back, and he's like the epitome of that, you know, stupid thing that the UFC does, and they encourage you to put on a show no matter what, you know. And I mean, it reminded me of some WWE shit with him like sticking his face out there to be hit. But I mean, there's a point where that's strategy and tactical or whatever you want to call it, and stupidity, and he brought it to the level of stupidity the other night. And if I was in his corner, I would be losing my shit on him for doing that. That is just nonsense. I mean, you're just you're causing your friggin' face to open up because he's opening your cuts up and stuff. You could break your nose. There's just all sorts of shit that it's just not gonna help your career. To get like 5 seconds of people going, oh shit, man, he's a savage. It's not worth it. So that was the big takeaway for me. And I had him on a couple of my lineups. I thought he had a chance to win it, but he just lost it in the third. He just had, not enough finishing strength and just took too many shots. I mean, Gaethje just was pinpoint accurate on his game. He got rocked a couple times. He definitely, early on, was struggling to adjust to that style. But once he figured it out, it was like, all right, buddy, I've got way more experience in this league than you, and I'm going to show you exactly how much. But it's kind of interesting that they're friends now. They probably won't fight again. Maybe. We'll see. But then this is the knockouts. A bunch of knockouts in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 knockouts in a row. Right in the middle of the card. And, it's the first round knockouts you really got to get. So, of course, Ally Quinta getting knocked out by Bobby Green. I did not have. I didn't give faith enough to Bobby Green. Should have. That was the first rounder. He just basically bobbed and weaved, and it was a moving target, and then just a few well placed punches, and Ally Quinta was on the canvas. First round, 2 minutes and 25 seconds in, and then before that. Or actually, after that, Alex Pereira beat Andreas Michailidis by a flying knee and punches. 18 seconds into the second round. And
yeah, Alex was challenged in that first round.
Yeah.
He was challenged.
Yeah.
But he did what he had to do and realized, okay, I don't want a replay of that. I'm going to get this over quick.
It was a tactical fight.
Wow, what a talent.
It was a tactical fight until the second round started, and then that flying knee landed. And yeah, it was it after that.
And the way he did it, it was almost like wow. I mean, it's
dynamic. Very dynamic.
Just awful. It's incredible. Hard to find the words.
I should have given him more credit than I did on my lineups. And one guy that probably blew a lot of people away because he was like a journeyman, Chris Curtis. I mean, it just sounds like a journeyman guy that's been doing it forever. But, he had like probably 30, 40 fights or something like that. And goes up against this guy, Phil Hawes, who looks unstoppable. Knocks him out in the first round. 4 minutes and 27 seconds into the fight.
What a strange fight. I believe that was the second round, wasn't it, Rich?
First round. End of the first round.
Okay, because Curtis needed to keep the fight standing, and that's exactly what was happening. I mean, Hawes, I guess, had an edge on the ground, but it didn't. Hawes was winning the stand-up game until he wasn't. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, how did that happen? Boom.
And then sixth fight of the night, Nassourdine Imavov beating Edmund Shabazian by TKO from elbows. I don't think I actually got to watch this one.
Yeah, that was.
Something got interrupted on my feed. But that was TKO from elbows. 4 minutes and 42 seconds into round 2. But the one before that is definitely worth talking about. A couple of the ones before that. Ian Gary beating Jordan Williams, and talk about a turnaround. Jordan Williams was kicking this dude's ass. And 1 second left in the first round, Jordan Williams gets knocked out from punches, and it was just like a beautiful combination. Caught him sleeping, on a counter punch, and just had him at the end of the round just sitting up against the cage wondering what the fuck was going on. Referee had already called the fight. So, I think they actually, when they were getting lined up to do the decision, you could see him mouthing the words like, what happened? Or, like something like that. So he still was not aware of, how he had lost the fight. But Ian Gary gets up there and does the Conor McGregor routine and acts like he's the second coming of Conor McGregor. And, not off that performance, buddy. Slow your roll a little bit. Talk about WWE antics. I don't know if you caught that post-fight speech he gave, but oh boy. He tried to take over the whole arena there with that. Yeah. But, I guess that's what you feel you got to do. You got to do. Go ahead. Fourth fight of the night, Chris Barnett. That was a big surprise over Gian Villante. He was probably a big underdog, betting underdog, but Gian Villante had a bunch of losses. And this was his retirement fight. And it turns out these guys must be friends because Chris Barnett gave one of the best after fight interviews I've ever seen, giving tribute to Gian Villante and pointing out that he's got kids and he's retiring. But Barnett comes out dancing, and everybody's like, "Who's this crazy nut?" This big heavy dude, and he's dancing like a fool, and then out of nowhere, he lands a spinning wheel kick on this guy, Gian Villante, and then a couple of follow-up punches, and it's over. And so, yeah, I picked him. I picked him on what was my best pick of all my cards. And I had Dustin Jacoby on that same card, so I thought for a couple seconds I might be going somewhere. But Dustin Jacoby before that got the unanimous decision win. But yeah, Chris Barnett, he got a lot of viral attention for that post-fight speech there.
Yeah, and I think for Villante it's probably time to do something else. But he's a colorful guy. Kind of miss him.
He was very gracious about the whole thing too, smiling. And Barnett actually, as the interview was going on, I think that was him. He was like, "Can he stay here?" Had him stay right in the ring. So that the cage, that was cool. Second fight of the night, Melsik Bagdasaryan beating Bruno Souza by unanimous decision. First fight of the night, Odie Osborne over CJ Vergara, unanimous decision. And the one I didn't talk about was also a unanimous decision. The 11th fight of the night, in the middle of the main event card, Shane Burgos beat Billy Quarantillo by unanimous decision. I just picked all the wrong fights there. But we got to get to the big boxing story, which I know Tony was going to talk a lot about. I didn't see the entire fight, but what I did see was mostly the early stuff. Because I was trying to watch two illegal feeds at the same time. There's a lot of pop-ups to close when you're trying to refresh feeds and everything. So at one point I had them in like picture-in-picture on my computer. But yeah, Caleb Plant came in strong. He looked like he was frustrating Canelo, but everybody kept saying Canelo's a late starter, and when Canelo was responding and getting inside on him, he looked like he was roughing him up a little bit at a time. So I wasn't shocked when I tuned in and again late in the fight and I saw Caleb going down, but I was kind of more like disappointed that he wasn't able to use that early strategy throughout the fight and keep that distance and
it just went exactly the way we thought it would go. Yeah. And Caleb just could not stop him.
No.
And Canelo was, as I was explaining to my neighbor about that, I said Canelo was El Jefe, the boss. And it just became like a sense of inevitability.
Yeah.
I think Caleb started off good. I gave him the first, I gave him the third, and even I believe I gave him the 8th round on it. But there was no doubt about what was going to happen at the end. But I was just kind of hoping the Plant could just hold on for a decision. And did you hear about the conversation in the 9th round? Did you hear about that?
No.
Okay, there was talk between the two of them. And so that'll be a fun Google for you, your assignment. Caleb's, in the 9th round, And I guess they have these cameras up so close you can hear everything. And Caleb's saying, "You're pretty good." And I guess Canelo kind of nodded, and Caleb says, "What do you think?" And he says, "Pretty good fight." I says, "How do you think I'm doing?" That's probably not a good thing to do. You do that after the fight, maybe not during it. It's really interesting. I'm telling you that I didn't catch it when I was watching it live. I didn't, because I was having to relay it to a couple of people that kept calling me.
What is that? Is that UFC guy that does that all the time? Who's that? I'm thinking Leon Edwards, but I know it's not him.
Who?
Not Leon Edwards, but I know I think he fought him recently, but I don't know who it is. I'm thinking of somebody, but guy that fought last few months.
So I was just kind of hoping that Caleb could hang in there, but eventually the wall came down, and he gave everything. He has nothing to be ashamed of, I don't think. I mean, he gave everything he had, but what did we say? You've got to get Canelo's attention. Get that respect, and he just couldn't do it.
Well, that's the other thing too, of that strategy of trying to keep in your range the whole time and trying not to let Canelo wade in on you or corner you. You have to be light on your feet, and it's very tough to turn into your punches and get the type of force that is going to be necessary to really stop a guy like Canelo and shock him, and shake his face a little bit. You have to touch his chin, and that's hard enough just because of his defensive style. But I just didn't see Caleb able to do much more than get points wins on those rounds. Basically, it wasn't a sense of geez,
again, that's
you could put him on the canvas any minute.
Very hard. Yeah, and that's just very hard to do. I mean, at some point it's like in a football game. I mean, you could have a great defense, but you've got to put points on the board. And it just wasn't there. So this is a fascinating future, and Canelo had hit it before the fight, but he did, in the interviews, he said all the right stuff. He said, "I don't want to look past this fight, and I need to go home and get some rest." He said all the right stuff. But there's talk about him going up to 175 and going up against Benavidez or Bivol.
Yeah, there's already talk I've heard people saying that he would wipe out the entire cruiserweight division. Oh my God. Ridiculous stuff out there.
Well, one step at a time.
Yeah.
We've got two guys in Russia that haven't read the script. And to add a little more to it, there's one last guy at 168, David Benavidez. Now, the problem is Benavidez had one of the belts, but then he ate his way out of it. So he's fighting Saturday. And he wants the Canelo fight. I mean, yeah, who doesn't? I mean, that's the money fight. But maybe before Canelo would move up, it would there's a lot of demand for him to fight Benavidez. We'll see how David looks Saturday night. That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Our Elvis fight of the week last week went to Elvis Rodriguez, beating Juan Pablo Romero. And also, Storm and Norman might be disappointed in this one. Timo Schwarzkopf lost to Aram Fanian. So, I don't know why that's like such a big fight, but it's on the main page of BoxRec. No, we talked about it just because of that last name last week. But, yeah, big fight, I guess. And this week, we have a guy that almost has the same letters in his last name as me, but he's missing an R, and this the R and the E in the first part are switched around. A guy named Dylan Breguion instead of Bergeron. But anyway, we'll get into that a little later. As far as the upcoming schedule, we've got another UFC fight night coming up, 197. Holloway versus Rodriguez. Max Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez. I don't know. This one feels like an easy cruise win for Holloway, like a tune-up fight for me. What about you, Tom? But as long as he was in his right mind, we know he had his
I've
ups and downs there with the head injuries.
I would agree. Ramirez was really on a roll for a while, but then he seemed to have a few setbacks, come back. But Max is still one tough guy. It's just hard to beat.
And Big Ben Rothwell, 39-13, fighting Marcos Rogerio de Lima, who is 18-7-1. And a couple of journeymen going at it here. I really have not seen de Lima a lot. I have seen Rothwell. He's one of those guys that, if he ever got into acting, he would always play like the bouncer or the giant dude.
His hands. I shook hands with him. He came here to Cleveland back in 2007. Well, he's been around a while, and he was training with the militant team. And he came here for the fight night at the Flats, part of Cleveland, right by the lake. It was an outdoor card, really great. And so I was right by the side of the cage, and he knocked the guy out pretty quick. It was almost a mismatch. The guy it was like a Mutt and Jeff fight. The poor guy fighting him was about only weighed at like 210, but he was like 5'8" or something. So it was pretty much preordained. But man, that guy had just gigantic hands, and he's got that vibe about. Nice guy though, very polite.
Right. Well,
but
the good thing about
you
Ben,
really nailed it. You really nailed it.
He goes back to the IFL days. Only true mixed martial arts.
Well, before that, see, this was before the IFL. Remember, this was 2007. The IFL didn't come around, I think, till about a year after that.
Well, that's when he came on my radar.
Well, I was around then. I'm sorry,
but he goes back to before I even moved to New Hampshire officially. Back in 2001 was his first professional fight, a TKO win.
Mm-hmm.
And has fought everybody there is to fight pretty much at heavyweight, and in every different type of league, UFC, Affliction, IFL, King of the Cage, M1 even. He's got an M1 fight back in 2000.
Yeah, and then the league back here at the time, NAAF. Yes, North American Association Fighting. I can't remember all the acronym, but that was the one that was big at the time. Yeah, back. And Fury came back for that fight.
So Ben's last win is actually over Chris Barnett, the guy who did the wheel kick over Gian Belmonte, strangely enough. And I just looked at Marcos Rogerio de Lima's record, and if you do common opponent math, he's in trouble because the last two guys before Barnett that Rothwell beat were Ovin St. Preux and Stefan Struve, and De Lima lost to both of those guys. So on paper, this might be a good matchup, but it looks like my analysis says that Rothwell's going to cruise on that one. And you always got to bet.
So maybe he's going to make one last run at it.
Yeah. And the last guy he lost to was Marcin Tybura. So I don't see Rogerio de Lima being that type of dominating performance type of guy to take it to Rothwell. But stranger things have happened, so maybe we have to hedge our bets on that one. Female fight big on the main card. Felicia Spencer, 8-3, fighting Leah Letson, who is 5-1. Don't know much about either girl there. I'll definitely be crunching the numbers on that one. You pretty much always got to have one female fight on the card. That's the main rule. Alright, so 8th fight of the night, Yadong Song, 17-5-1, fighting Julio Arce, who's 17-4. And 7th fight of the night, Miguel Baiza, 10-1, fighting Kalen Williams, 12-2. Thiago Moises, 15-5, fighting Joel Alvarez, 18-2. Another female fight, Cynthia Calvillo, who is 9-3-1, fighting Andrea Lee, who's 12-5. 4th fight of the night, Sean Woodson, 8-1, fighting Colin Anglin, who is 8-2. That sounds like a great match on paper. We'll see how that goes. Courtney Casey, looking to get out of the 500 hole there. She's 9-9, fighting Liana Jojua, who is 8-4. 2nd fight of the night, Mike Diakiese, who is 14-4, fighting Rafael Alves, who is 19-10. And then first fight of the night, Kennedy Nchukwu, who is 9-1, fighting Daun Young, who is 14-2-1. And this fight is in Vegas on the 13th Saturday there. And we have a Bellator card as well. Main event, Cyborg. Cyborg. Christian Justino, 24-2. Fighting Sinead Kavanagh. A formidable, intimidating 7-4. This may have to take the mismatch of the week from boxing. Oh my God. It'll be a bad one, Tom. They might have to call some paramedics on that.
Yeah. I just love her name, though. Boy, that is so Irish.
Sinead Kavanagh. Oh, yeah. Well, the first girl who ever beat me up was named Sinead. Sinead O'Connor, believe it or not.
Is this a story?
Just like the...
Okay, is this a story for...
For what?
Public consumption?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, growing up in Dorchester, tried not to get into fights with girls, period. But, in the sandbox, shit happens. So, I don't know, probably 6, 7 years old. And this girl's like throwing all my friends around, And back in the Catholic school days, they had to wear the skirts and everything, So even in the skirt, she's throwing people out the sandbox by their arms. Oh, shit. I'm like trying to simulate it over here. I knocked my computer keyboard over. But no, she's just like whipping people around. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go for a try on this lady. And she was my age, but found out later that her mother was in the Irish Republican Army and everything like that, and she was no slouch. She was no cheap date. But she grabbed my arm and threw me right out the sandbox real quick. I didn't have any chance at all. That was before any wrestling training that I had, or boxing, or anything. I just said, I could take this little crazy little girl. Nope, not so much. But yeah, she was the Sinead O'Connor with hair. Like the singer there. Sinead, the one that ripped up the Pope on Saturday Night Live. Sinead O'Connor. You heard of her? Same name.
she was kind of a one-hit wonder.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was it? I don't know the story about that, but I remember it was spring of '89, if I remember right. And that one song, sad song, and then I never heard of her.
Yeah,
interesting.
Basically. But, that's why she had to rip the Pope up on TV, and that's what she's known for now. But anyway, Tyrell Fortune in the co-main event against Linton Vassell. It's a slightly more competitive fight, I believe. Tyrell 11-1, Linton Vassell 20-8. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. Those are the big boys too. So that should be exciting. And Aaron Pico 8-3, fighting Justin Gonzalez, undefeated at 12-0. Don't know much about him. Who goes 12-0 is against. Arlene Blencow on the card. She's 14-8, fighting Pam Sorensen, who's 9-3. We got Steve Mowry, 9-0, fighting Rakeem Cleveland, who's 22-13-1. Bruna Ellen, 5-3, fighting Desiree Yanez, who's also 5-3. Roman Faraldo, 5-0, fighting Robert Turnquest, who is 9-7. And Cody Law, the fourth fight of the night, 4-0, fighting Colton Ham, who's 4-3. Valerie Loretta, 3-1, fighting Taylor Turner, who is 5-7. And Muhammad Daris, 9-4, fighting our Where's Waldo fight of the week, Waldo Cortez Acosta. He is 3-0. Mahmoud Sabi Fawzi, 3-0, fighting Ethan Hughes, 2-0 in the first fight of the night. So that's it for that one. I had a couple stories here too, didn't I? Oh yes, we've been talking about Frank Gore over the last few weeks in his first boxing match. And I did not realize it was going to be this quick, but turns out it's going to be December 18th in Tampa, Florida. And he's going to be fighting Deron Williams, an ex-NFL running back. Gore will be fighting a former NBA point guard. So it's going to be a cross-sports phenomenon here. And you know what we always say, Tom.
Okay, now is this...
The other sports have all the best athletes, right? So...
Well, now, will this be bare knuckle or regular boxing?
Bare knuckle, Tom. What do you think Frank Gore is, a savage?
Okay. Well, let's see.
I think it's going to be gloved. I'm pretty sure.
So he was in the NFL, and his opponent was a point guard in basketball.
Yep.
Well, in fisticuffs, as you know, Customato always felt that, given his choice, he'd like to have a former basketball player. He felt they were better all-around athletes.
Well, then.
So, whatever that means. So I guess we'll see.
Well, if I remember correctly, one of the best running backs of all time, who also happened to be one of the early commentators for the UFC, Jim Brown, whenever he talked about one of the keys to his success as a running back, he would tell you that he liked to punch guys right in the chest. Instead of a stiff arm.
That goes back to my boyhood. Yeah. I mean, he goes back to my boyhood days, and he was what a running back is supposed to be. I mean, he would run these guys over. He was incredible. But I never guess he ever went into boxing. But he was pretty funny at his early commentaries. If you've heard some of them.
I was shocked when I found out that he did that. You know, I got into watching like all the greatest fights ever, and he was announcing some of them, and I was just like, wow. You know, you'd never think he played football. You'd think he was always an MMA guy. The way he talked. But anyway, yep. This is going to be a 4-round fight, contracted for 215 pounds, so neither guy should have enough time to kill the other guy. Or hurt the other one too bad. So this is probably a good idea for Frank, and he's probably going to make a lot of money because this is going to be on the Jake Paul, Tommy Fury undercard. Although I don't know if that name's big enough.
Speaking of that, I was watching Tommy Fury get a medicine ball slammed in his midsection by Tyson Fury. And now you can imagine the pressure that Tommy Fury's under.
Oh, yeah.
Think about it.
His father is guaranteed to win.
I hate that phrase, failure is not an option. It's always an option. But, man, I mean, can you imagine having to face your brother, your half-brother? Like, what is the deal? Is it brother from another mother or brother from another daddy? I don't know which, but I guess they're half-brothers. But still, I mean, imagine the pressure he's under. Ooh.
Yeah. Well, the last time they were in the news together, they had both eaten some tainted boar, isn't it? Or is that another brother of his? I think he only has one brother.
Tainted boar.
Tainted boar meat.
I hadn't heard of that one.
They went hunting for. And it had some kind of, like, not that nandrolone shit, but it was some kind of meat hormone or whatever. And maybe it had eaten a Myoplex bull. We don't know.
Boy. Let's hope that doesn't happen.
Those wild boars are crazy, but I don't know. I think they had both tested positive, and that was their excuse, that they had consumed one.
That Myoplex scam had to be one of the biggest in bodybuilding history. That stuff caught fire in 2013, and I admit I tried it once, so it got me. Yeah, good for them. But that had to be. And these things have been going on since I was a kid, and I keep falling for them. You think I catch on, but yeah, it brings back a lot of memories.
But anyway, we got some fights in Denmark on Saturday, boxing matches here worth talking about. How about this female's record at bantamweight? Dina Thorsland, first of all, she's 16-0. That's not that exciting, but fighting Zulina Munoz, 53-3-2 as a female. World Boxing Organization World Female Bantamweight title on the line in Denmark. And that's usually where you do see the women main event, over in Denmark. It's kind of crazy. But they just really hold their women fighters in very high regard over there. Not so much over here. You got to go to MMA, the female boxers. What else? There's nothing really too excellent on the rest of that card.
You know, this whole thing you were talking about, basketball, I remember back in the 1960s, Wilt Chamberlain was getting fed up with basketball. He's getting tired of it. He was an interesting guy. He had this article in Sports Illustrated, and he had a very intimidating picture of himself on the cover. And in the article, he said he was thinking about going into boxing. And he said, don't think for one moment that I couldn't become the heavyweight champion of the world in 2 years. He said, do you hear me out there, Ollie? Mm-hmm. Do you hear me out there at the start? He says, look at that picture on the cover again. Well, rumor has it that he did lace the gloves up with Ollie, and they did about a round or two. Mm-hmm. And Wilt decided he'd stay in basketball. Yeah, but yeah, that was something that everyone was kind of looking forward to, because he was oh God, he had to be about 7 feet tall. I think he was a towering individual. But boxing and basketball are two different things.
Right. Yes, they are. I played my share of basketball. But yeah, it's not really much fights, except for that one big brawl that happened at the NBA fight. There's usually not a lot of fights in basketball. You know, somebody might get slapped or elbowed by accident, but you know, it's not usually on purpose.
Yeah, and I think what D'Amato was talking about is you get a guy with that great hand-eye coordination.
Right.
And then plus the not just aerobic cardio, but the anaerobic cardio too. So I think that was the whole thing there. But I think that basketball players are probably more well served in boxing than they would be in MMA. I mean, in MMA, you'd think that the ex-football guys would have, you know, a little easier time there. But
right.
You never know.
And we've got the TV fight cards here on Saturday. One of them is from the United Kingdom. Featherweights in the main event. Kid Galahad, 28-1, fighting Pico Martinez, who is 42-10-2. That's a heck of a record. This is for the IBF World Featherweight title. And cruiserweights. Chris Billum-Smith, 13-1, and Dylan, my brother from another mother, I guess, Bregion. Very, very close to my name, but he's 11-1-1. One's a wild there for. It's going to be for the EBU European Cruiserweight title. I'm going to have to teach him how to spell his last name properly. That's not how it's spelled. No, it almost looks like my name when I look at it, but it's not. I know it's not. Anyway, super featherweights. Terry Harper in the middle of this card, 11-0-1, fighting Alicia Baumgardner. Wonder if she's related to Bruce, the old wrestler. She is 10-1, so very evenly matched on paper. This one's for a couple titles. the WBC World Female Super Featherweight title and the IBO World Female Super Featherweight title. And then we got our Somebody's O's Got to Go fight for a very obscure title. Super Lightweights James Flint, 9-0-1, and Dom Hunt, who is 7-0. So, somebody's always got to go with Super Lightweight there. That's it. The big ones there. And then we got to go to the fight you mentioned earlier, David Benavidez at Super Middleweight. 24-0, fighting Kyrone Davis, who is not undefeated. He is 16-2-1. And then we got another Benavidez, Jose Benavidez Jr., 27-1.
That's his brother. That's David's brother.
I figured. It's spelled the same exact way. Francisco Emmanuel Torres is his opponent, 17-3, and won all of his last 6. So that might be interesting. And I don't know how you get a name like this, but super lightweight Rock Dodler Myrtle, 17-0, fighting Ladarius Miller, who is 21-2. Rock Dodler. I get the first name, but
okay, the name Rock, like R-O-C?
R-O-C-K. Rock.
Okay, R-O-C-K. Dodler.
Dodler.
Like
D-O-D-L-E-R.
Oh, Rock Dodler. That's quite a title. Wow. It's well, good first name for a fighter though. Rock.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rock Dodler.
Super featherweights before that, Jonathan Javier Fierro, 11-0, fighting Victor Ruiz, who is 23-11. Clearly is in opponent status these days because he's lost 5 of his last 6. And the only other one worth mentioning here, we've got Keenan Carbajal, 22-2-1, fighting Josian Figueroa Bonilla, who is 12-6-2. And here's another one on the Zone on Saturday in California. Jaime Munguia, 37-0, fighting Gabriel Rosado, who is 26-13-1 for the WBO Intercontinental Middleweight title. Nothing too special.
Boy, Rosado's been around a long time. He's training with Freddie Roach now, and he's very confident. So is his opponent. That may be a good one.
Also on the card, halfway down, lightweights, William Zepeda, 23-0, fighting John Vincent Moralde, 24-4 for the WBA Continental Americas lightweight title. And let's see. Maybe not much after that, huh? Oh, there's one in New Hampshire this weekend. Speaking of Hampton, Tom, fights this weekend. I know it says TBA, but
wow, how about that?
Mike Ohan Jr. is in the main event, 13-1, and then Denzel Whitley at welterweight, 6-0, fighting John Ferrara in the co-main event. He's only 0-1. I don't necessarily know this guy. I've met him, but this guy's name is Chris Trieti, and does a lot of fights up here in New Hampshire every now and then. Derry, New Hampshire, that area, and Hampton. It's like, you're both like an hour away from my house. It's like, why don't you, there's a freaking venue right there. It's a concert hall, right in Guilford. I should call him up and tell him, have a fight there. I'll go for sure. They've only had them once there. They brought the cage in and everything, and it was in the middle of summer. So like late in the action, there's like giant mosquitoes in there biting the fighters. One of the fighters killed it on his leg. This big, it was like a crane fly or something. I don't know. He landed on his leg and he killed it. And there was blood all over his leg from killing the mosquito. I mean, it was feasting on people, obviously. But other than that, it went swingingly. Well, yeah, and then there's another guy, my other friend from Norwich, who I didn't really teach him much. He already knew a lot going in, but he was like a Golden Gloves guy. and he used to work with my boxing team. Wasn't an official team member really, because he didn't show up to practice every day. But when he did show up, he worked hard and he sparred and everything like that. And he actually, from what I heard, did more street fighting up in Norwich with this other guy that I know. This big Italian guy. I used to hear stories about these guys like picking fights on purpose at the bars and stuff. And this kid was short and small, so not a lot of people would think he could fight. But the thing gets to swinging, shit goes down. But somehow he never got into any trouble with the military school part for that. So I guess he never got arrested, but certainly got into a share of fights. But he has a promotion now in Boston. So my next mission, I guess, is I should try to get my other buddy that I met, Chris Trietti, to start working with this guy, Michael Reyes. But they just had a fight in Boston. He's starting to go Reyes Boxing. Great name because they got the Reyes gloves already. Anyway, we got some Pittsburgh fights as well on Saturday. Ole Dovhan, 12-0, fighting Glenn DeZern, who's 14-2-1 at Super Bantamweight for the NABA Super Bantamweight title. How about this for a name? Steelton, Pennsylvania. There's fights there too on Saturday. Nothing spectacular, absolutely nothing, but there are fights. A lot of TBAs also. TBA. Alright. So, got a little bit of here. Well, I guess that's it. That's it for the week on upcoming boxing. And what else? I got one little drug story to finish out the week, I guess, here. Can't think of anything else I missed. Fighter. This is interesting one. I have not heard the explanation behind this, why it's banned, but flyweight mixed martial artist Ryan Benoit, who I actually had in a couple of my lineups of FanDuel before. He has actually been banned for 10 months after testing positive for a sleep disorder drug. As a 10-8 win-loss record.
Modafinil?
Yes, modafinil. At UFC Fight Night July 31st. So his period of ineligibility begins that day. And he's going to be suspended for 10 months.
10 months? Wow.
And he doesn't get like a full year or anything more than that because it says that he was using it out of competition and because he was offered full and complete cooperation. I don't know if he was actually prescribed it.
Well, if he was using it out of competition, so in other words, there's some drugs that you can't use even out of competition. Is that correct?
Yes.
Well, I don't think modafinil stays in the system that long. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's not one I've heard of. And it must be one of those ones that because you have a sleep disorder, it keeps you up, like a Ritalin, does for ADD.
Well, okay, here's the way I would describe it, it's a very clean energy. Now, we can look at dirty energy like methamphetamine, cocaine, or even, from what I've heard, Ritalin and Adderall. Those are the drugs that you don't eat on, you don't sleep, and they're very unhealthy. Modafinil is not like that at all. It's kind of between caffeine and some of the other ones, and it's mainly used off-label. After that movie Limitless came out, if you remember that, about 10 years ago.
Right.
Well, that's modafinil. That's what the movie was based on. That modafinil was, nowhere near NZT-48. But modafinil's been proven safe, and I'm just really surprised that it's banned forever, I guess, if you're competing. I mean, because I thought that, even with marijuana, that you had a 3-day window or something before competition. I mean, again, I don't know. I've never studied that. But surprised they came down so hard on modafinil. I mean, I understand it with testosterone or something like that, but
yeah,
it's weird.
All right, now, Tom, you've convinced me. How do I get the stuff? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, it's legal.
I know.
Because it's hard to get a prescription for it, but you can import it. See, there's a gray area with prescription drug importation. Now, certain things you can never import legally: testosterone, anabolics, growth hormone, cocaine, fentanyl. That's go to jail.
Yeah.
But for most prescription drugs, provided that it's for your personal use, it's called off-label, and it's kind of one of those gray areas.
Yeah. Well, then we learn something new every day on the Fight News Unlimited Combat.
An article I wrote on it. Put it that way.
All right.
The what?
We learn something new every day on the Fight News Unlimited Combat.
Yeah, I'll when I send the New Hampshire article, I'll send you an article I wrote on it and see what you think. Joe Rogan has a lot. He's had a lot of guests talk about it on his show.
Yeah, speaking of Joe Rogan, it's interesting you mentioned that. The interesting side story there was Aaron Rodgers of the Green Bay Packers and is refusing to take the vaccine, and then he, on top of that, says he's taking ivermectin. They're suddenly not calling it horse dewormer anymore. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
They've at least given it that respect,
yeah.
but they're also saying
Aaron Rodgers, what an interesting
it's not
guy.
an approved use. But yeah, Joe Rogan was big on that and said that he tried it, and also I think he did the antibody, anticlonal, whatever they call it, monoclonal antibodies. But yeah, he threw a bunch of stuff at it and just toughed it out. But it's getting kind of crazy. There's some new side effects with the Johnson & Johnson one too, and that's the one that Aaron Rodgers said was the only one that he qualified for. And he made some really good points, but the only thing that they put out in the media was that he made some false statements about the vaccine, and fired him from one of his contracts.
Rich, when you see the world through an ideology, facts are meaningless. Facts mean nothing. Truth means nothing. Does it fit your agenda?
Right.
I've never seen anything like this ever, and it's a dark time and far from over with. Yes.
And the other football player who might have been fired partially due to his vaccination situation, Cam Newton got a new job with his old team today. Just found that out. Going back to the Carolina Panthers.
Who signed him?
The Carolina Panthers.
Unbelievable.
Going back to his old team. Wild. And he's going to get $10 million, $4.5 guaranteed for half a season. Must be nice, right?
I guess it didn't go too well with Bill Belichick, huh? Coach Belichick.
Oh, no. Well, apparently one of the underreported stories of that whole thing was that Cam actually didn't even know the playbook. He just didn't have it memorized or whatever. Didn't really think enough to study it, and so that's how Mac Jones got the starting job, and Cam Newton got the boot at the beginning of the year because the kid was hungry. He wanted the job. And Bill Belichick said, well, he's going to take some adjustment, but screw it. This guy don't even know the playbook. Why are we paying him? So, I don't know. That was just part of it, though. There was definitely something to do with that, the vaccination status, and that he was always going to be a distraction for the team. That was the frontline story about why he got separated from us. But Mac Jones is doing all right, so I'm not upset about it now. Anyway, let's see if we got any new stories here that I missed. Got a Google alert somewhere. I saw Light Station Casinos. I guess that's it. Station Casino. Oh no, here we go. Martial arts.
Oh, on Fox Sports, they're starting to pump up the Porter Terrence Crawford situation. Showed some previews of the training on that, and that may be an entertaining fight. I'm looking forward to that one too.
Yeah, I caught a little of that, and we interviewed Sean Porter when he was like 9-0, back in his early days, and some funny stories from that whole situation. But he's one of those fighters that his activity, it's never a point where it's like, he punches himself out, he gets too tired, but his activity is at such a high level, he comes in with both hands down a lot. So a guy like Crawford, who is more of a tactical fighter, he's going to take advantage of every little bit of weakness and make the adjustments. All he has to do is not necessarily just wait till he tires himself out, but just wait a couple rounds to see if that style is gonna be effective, and be able to work around it. But I just think that Porter has a chance because Crawford has so little recent experience, and Porter.
I mean, we keep hearing about Crawford being the pound for pound king, and again, I've said this for a couple of years. Guys get tired of me saying it, but you look at that resume.
Yeah.
Just look at it. I don't know what else to add to it. Right. So maybe he is. See, this is why I'm looking forward to this so much. Maybe he is the second coming. But I think Porter will know a lot more after that Porter fight. Because Porter is just, he's never quite got past the top, but he has had a belt, and even in his losing efforts, in that Spence fight, were it not for that knockdown, decision could have been different. So I'm really looking forward to this. And if Crawford shines, boy, that's good for him. But he's going to have to earn it.
Yeah. The one thing I really don't like about Porter's style is he tends to do the Manny Pacquiao thing where he just comes in with both hands down. He's thinking about throwing the next punch before he even throws it, so that when he does throw it, it's like right after the other one, before the other one even comes back. So he leaves both hands out there, and if the guy's hurt and you're just unleashing combinations that are going to knock him out, that's one thing. But if you're doing that all the time, right in the center of the ring, a counterpuncher is going to take you apart. And I don't think he's ever fixed that issue with his fighting style, but. You cannot knock his cardio, his durability, his heart. That's the only thing I can think of that is going to be his downfall if this fight doesn't go his way. But, he's also had a lot of time off. He's been doing the commentating thing. But he still comes back to the ring and gets his fights on and does his thing. And seems to be doing well, and he's happy. And sometimes that's what you need. You need a little bit of separation from the game to the point where, you only have to take an offer if it comes along, and it's a big chance like this. Whereas Crawford is inactive because people are supposedly afraid of him. And also, he doesn't have spectacular management. I want to be honest.
I don't think anyone's really that afraid of him. I don't think any professional fighter's afraid. You make the money right. There's always someone out there. I don't think that's the issue. At DBC against Bob Arum, I think that's been the problem, and I guess this is his last Bob Arum fight. So this is just I'm really pumped up to see this.
Yeah. We'll see what the Ferrari does when you take it out of the garage where it's been stored for too long.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm just expecting a real challenge to Crawford. I don't know. I don't even know what the opening odds are on the fight. I haven't checked.
I don't know.
So I would assume Crawford would be a slight favorite, but I wouldn't expect it to be anything ridiculous.
Right. All right. Well, I guess that's going to be it for us tonight, and we'll pipe in Tony's segment once we figure out the audio code there. He's got to send me some kind of data file to get his pre-recorded segment. Tonight he is at the Rocky IV thing, I guess, where they're doing the Rocky IV remastered or whatever and re-edited in the theaters. We could prank call him right now and say, Tony, we got to do your segment live. That would be cruel. Yeah, so he's doing these, he's talking about getting the pin and, doing these road race things or, challenges. And his friend said, why don't you just put the pin on? You paid your money, but that's what you pay for. Don't even do the challenge. So I was thinking about that the other day, and I was like, they should do be a douchebag challenge, like like the opposite of a feel good thing, just to prove that you could put yourself in uncomfortable situations and call everyone an asshole that you meet today, check off the box. That would be something that I don't know, people would buy it just for a gag gift. Check off the box. But anyway, yeah, that'd be a douchebag thing to do, to just do a whole conversation on a live show in the middle of a movie theater. On a one night only thing. That'd be a douchebag move. Anyway, that's it for us. Thanks for going solo with us, Tom, and condolences to your situation there with your dog, Rocky.
Yeah, and I didn't give him that name. I inherited him. He had the name, but
that's awesome.
The name was appropriate. But people who aren't dog people don't really understand just how these creatures become a part of your life. I mean, are part of the family.
Oh yeah.
And I have his ashes, so we're gonna go scatter him probably next week. And I have to send you a picture of the new Junior. He's a pit, I think, greyhound mix. But I don't know who allowed that to happen. Somewhere there's some fence jumping going on there. But this one is his head's a pit bull, but his body, pit bulls have that bodybuilder body, and this one's a speed demon.
Oh yeah, that's what I was thinking. As soon as you mentioned that combination, I said to myself, geez, so that means that he can rip you apart and he can catch you to rip you apart if you're trying to run from him.
Yeah. And, a friend of mine who used to live in Florida went to the greyhound races, and as soon as he seen Junior, he said, well, see, this was another stray. He was tied to a pole, Junior. And I've had him about going on 2 years now. Yeah, about 2 years. But he was tied to a pole, and I'm not crazy about pit bulls. That wouldn't be my favorite breed, but every dog has a right to a life. So I adopted him. But a friend of mine saying that dog's got some greyhound in him. He's not built like a pit bull. Pit bulls aren't really speed demons. This one is. So, and he's been a load. For the first several months he was a land shark. I mean, he'd eat wires, he'd eat toes, he'd eat paper. He ate. A friend of mine came over, dropped like $400 bills. Everybody says, "Hey, look!" He was outside. He says, "Tom, Junior's out there eating some money." And it was quite a lesson because we got the bills before he finished them off.
Uh-huh.
I guess if the serial numbers are still there, you can take them to the bank and they'll give you intact money.
Oh yeah.
How about that?
SDIC insurance.
Yeah, but Junior was just, and he's still kind of a wild man. He's going on 3, and I'm kind of hoping that this red-nosed pit bull stuff is going to calm down here. But yeah, and I think he misses his older brother in some ways, even though he was a brat. But
yeah,
I'd pay attention Rocky, and Rocky, I swear, would look at me sometimes and say, "Dad, why do you have to bring this little brat into the house?" But I guess it's an axiom, Rich.
Yeah.
We enjoy every minute, and that goes for life. I mean, you lost your father at a pretty young age, and I was lucky enough to have mine for quite a while. But the key is try to enjoy every moment, because you never know.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, you get to that age, 40-ish, they call it over the hill. But I've always felt, I kind of came to this conclusion recently that I've always felt like I was still a kid. And like I haven't really grown up, like officially. Like I'm still in kid mentality. And like as you get over your 40s and into your mid 40s, you start to realize that you can't have that mentality anymore. You have to start realizing that you are getting older, and that
really, I haven't figured that out yet.
There is that.
Well,
time
a lot of
is
it's
going to come.
Staying in shape, buddy.
Yeah, but I look at it like Rocky.
And I know what the job you have. You stay in
speaking
shape.
of the name Rocky Marciano always said, when it's my time, it's my time. There's nothing I can do about it. So whether you go in a plane crash or you die of old age, and like the lucky ones, then it's sometimes there's nothing you can do about it.
All I'm saying is I do hardcore biohacking. I just live it. I eat it. I breathe it. And there's so many things coming along that we're starting to recognize aging is a disease.
Oh yeah.
And we've just got to stay healthy now to take advantage of it. And it's got some political attention from the woke crowd. They don't like it.
Oh,
they don't like any kind of longevity. Balance
of nature. All over Fox News. Suddenly it's like, that and, this guy that, I don't know if you've ever heard of this guy, the Health Ranger, he calls himself. It's like an all-natural thing.
I think we talked about him once, but haven't heard much about him. But
yeah, he's all
there's a lot of stuff in it. There's an awful lot of developments with stem cells, with nanotechnology, with epigenetics, genetic editing, artificial intelligence, telomere lengthening. I mean, it's just exciting stuff, but don't go out and get in a stupid car wreck. Don't blow your brain. That's the key for a lot of people. I mean, just try to live a good lifestyle, and I do believe what you don't do is more important than what you do.
Oh, yeah.
So, but the main thing, control stress and work out hard, So, all right, sir. Next week we'll do it. What? See what's going on in the fight world then, and let's enjoy the fights this weekend, huh?
And we'll probably do it Wednesday, so keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Because
that'll work.
We got to deal with our diva co-host, right?
Because I was that's all right.
Too much on his plate.
That's all right.
I'm just kidding, Tony.
We'll make it work, bud. All right, We'll be talking next week.
All right. And we're going to scoot in Tony's portion at this point. So keep in tune and on the line here, and we get Tony's take on the Canelo fight and his pre-recorded segment he was nice enough to do for us here. There we go.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, it's the Tornado himself, Tony Panicow, here on a special Wednesday night going solo. I'm not available Thursday night. Rich and Tom, they both know. I got a big plan tomorrow night. It's the re-release one night only in the theaters of Rocky IV. This one titled Rocky vs. Drago, the Ultimate Director's Cut. And I felt, I just had to see it in the theater. I'm an old school movie guy, ever since I was a little kid. Now they got, these on-demands and pay-per-views and, streaming and all that, which is all well and good. But there's just something about going to a theater, sitting there, getting a big thing of popcorn, getting a big soft drink, watching 18 minutes worth of previews, and seeing the movie on the big screen. Another reason I'm doing it was, I thought about doing it Saturday night, but for reasons I'll get to in a little bit, I got some other plans. But then, you sit there and you get it, it's like I said, only in the theater one night in select theaters. And I can just imagine, say I decide to have some friends over Saturday night, every 2 seconds. I want to go have a cigarette. I want to go to the bathroom. Can you pause it? No. I'm going to take a phone call. Then you got this relative calling, and I just couldn't deal with the aggravation. So I'll be at the movie theater Thursday night, 8 o'clock, one night only, Rocky vs. Drago, the director's cut. And, before I get into the real fights this past weekend and then coming up, a few things, I wanted to talk about in the movie. I didn't get a chance to discuss them with Rich and Tom last week. Looking forward to this. Obviously I'm a Philadelphian and grew up on Rocky, being born in 1976 when the year the original Rocky was released. This movie, they're going to make, from what I heard from Sylvester Stallone's interviews, it's going to be more dramatic. The original Rocky IV was literally the Russian shows up, Apollo wants to fight him, fight happens within like a matter of minutes during the movie, Apollo dies, Rocky's going to Russia. They didn't build up a whole lot of suspense. It was very fast. And what Sylvester Stallone said was he was worried, if he tried to build it up like he did the first two with a lot of slow moving scenes, that he would bore the audience. So he just went strictly into action, and he said he felt bad that he didn't let them digest things as they were happening. He rushed it too much, and he said he was gonna eliminate that mistake. So apparently the Apollo fight is gonna be a couple extra minutes. Apollo fights back a little bit more in this one than he did in the original. They're going to have a scene with the commission not allowing the Rocky versus Drago fight. I believe there's going to be differences in the fight scenes, the climactic fight. There's a few things in the movie that I really, really, really hope they change. Two things I know they can, and one thing, unfortunately, I don't think they can. I do know they're eliminating the robot, which creepily is like Paulie's girlfriend in the movie. I know they're getting rid of that, which I believe was because of licensing agreements. When Apollo gets in the ring, I love the James Brown entrance, but there's always a quick shot of him, and he's pointing at Drago, saying, like, I want you, chump, and he's not wearing any gloves. That always bothered me as a movie mistake. It's like, who edited that? That always bothered me. The other thing that I hope they change is the scene going into the final round of the Rocky versus Drago fight, when Drago's manager, Michael Pataki, I forget what his name is in the movie, but Michael Pataki is sitting up in the basically Politburo area with Gorbachev, and they have 1 minute between rounds. He runs down, gets to Drago's corner, berates him. Drago, after 14 grueling rounds where he's battered and bloody and beaten up and fighting the hardest fight of his life, stands up, picks him up with one hand, and throws him into the audience. I mean, I seriously hope they remove that, because that's just, a little bit like absurd and ridiculous. One thing that I always joked about, but I don't think they'll be able to change it, was because unless they filmed it, which I don't think they did, was Apollo's death. So Apollo, gets knocked out. He's laying there dying in the ring. Rocky's cradling him, and the press is there. And the press is sitting there, I think he's dead, and Rocky's, hey, get a doctor. Where's the ringside physician? There's no ringside physician. This is a professional boxing match. I don't care if it's an exhibition. I've seen amateur fights where they usually have 1 to 2 1 to 2 doctors there, and an ambulance on standby. You don't see that anywhere in this. And then basically Apollo, I guess, stops breathing, and Rocky resigns himself to the fact that Apollo just died in his arms. In real life, they would have paddles on him and an oxygen mask, maybe strapping him onto a stretcher and trying to get him out of there with oxygen on. They'd be trying to resuscitate him at some point. And there's no point. They're like, oh shit, he's dead. Okay, fuck him. Let's go. Okay, Rocky, you gotta fight Drago now. You just killed your friend that we didn't try to save. But no, very excited about this. And so that's why I'm recording right now. And Rich, Tom, I know you guys will do a great job without me tomorrow night, and we'll hopefully reconvene next week. So let's get to the big fight of last weekend, Canelo. We had the Canelo-Alvarez Caleb Plant fight for all the 4 major sanctioning bodies of the super middleweight division, and a fight I did not end up ordering. I was a little pissed off it wasn't on DAZN, so I just decided to forego ordering this one and saving the $75. And I felt it wasn't a must-see fight. Yes, it was for all the 4 major sanctioning belts, but it wasn't one that really struck me. It wasn't, a Canelo versus a Daniel Jacobs or a Gennady Golovkin or even a Sergey Kovalev for that. It wasn't a Canelo going up against a guy like Artur Beterbiev or somebody of that nature. So it just did not strike me as a must-see. I did follow it, and the results are pretty much what I, as well as most others, expected. Canelo with an 11th round TKO. And Plant, they said he boxed well. From the highlights I saw, he did not come to go gently into that good night. He used his jab, he used some movement. He landed some punches, but Canelo has a grade A chin against guys like Kovalev, Daniel Jacobs, Golovkin, where he especially was not threatened by a relatively light puncher in Caleb Plant. And like I said, Plant used some movement, he used jabs, landed a few right hands, but he could never discourage Canelo, and it was almost like the inevitable. Canelo started with his trademark body punches, and he was just putting the fist, on flesh, hitting him to the ribs, hitting him to the shoulders, methodically wearing him down. And then finally, he broke through the 11th round, stunned him pretty good with an uppercut, knocked him down. When Plant got up, you could see how staggered he was. He actually stumbled across the ring. And Russell Moore did a fantastic job. Gave him, the opportunity to, continue. Canelo jumped on him immediately. A couple more punches. As soon as Plant went down again, they stopped. He correctly stopped the fight without even a count. 11th round TKO. Also on the card, we had Anthony Durrell with a 4th round TKO over Marcus Hernandez. Ray Vargas with a unanimous decision, winning pretty much every round on all 3 cards over Leonardo Baez. And the king himself, Elvis Rodriguez, 5th round TKO over Juan Pablo Romero. We also had fight card Friday night. I did not really get to see a whole lot of it. Michaela Mayer defended her title. Unanimous decision. I am pulling up that information as we speak. While I'm looking at that, somebody's texting me. They always got to text me. Let's go to the schedule here. And then I want to discuss what we got coming up on Saturday, because we got a can't miss fight. That's it. Why is this box rec being uncooperative? Let's see, schedule. Put the schedule in. Not letting me put the date in. Nope. Right. Here we go. Let's put the date in, which was 11:05. Scroll down here a little bit. I'm not going to be covering the fights in Serbia. So we have Michaela Mayer, decision over Mavia Hamagavshe. Luis Melendez, unanimous decision over Thomas Matisse. Andres Cortez, TK over Mark Bernaldez. It was a decent fight card, nothing spectacular, but something to do on a Friday night. Like I said, I didn't catch the Michaela Mayer fight because I dozed off by that point. But what I want to get to is this weekend, because we have a can't miss event on Saturday night. This is a fight that I can't see how it's not going to be an epic classic. I'm just pulling up. Here's one fight. It just says one fight on the card, a TBA fight in Pennsylvania. It doesn't say where in Pennsylvania. It just says Pennsylvania. Okay, great. No, I think I'll skip that one. Here we go. Anaheim, California, Saturday night on DAZN. Main event: Jaime Munguia, 37-0, 30 knockouts. Fighting super middleweight. And Jaime is one of those fighters that he's naturally big. Actually, this fight's at middleweight. I thought it was at super. But he's been fighting at the middleweight limit, right at 160. He's moved up from junior middleweight. Like I said, his last fight was back in June, 6th round TKO over Camille Cerameta. Fight before that, just about a year ago, October of 2020, once again, 6th round TKO over Turiano Johnson. Has a stoppage in early 2020 over Gary Spike O'Sullivan, 11th round TKO. So Munguia is a guy, big, physical, strong, tough, hits like a mule. Well, he is fighting a gentleman I know from Philadelphia, who is a can't-miss action fighter, Gabe Rosado. If you've been following the fight game for the last decade, you know who Gabe Rosado is. Doesn't always win, always a great effort. He was a guy that Gennady Golovkin could not knock down. And then he's had some title fights that did not go his way. Guys against like Golovkin, Peter Quillen, Jermell Charlo. He had the problem with Rosado is he sometimes is too willing to trade. Another problem with Gabe is he is prone to cuts. So he's going to come out there and he's going to give you everything. But he has suffered a few knockdowns in his career. He's got a lot of miles on his tires, but he's a guy that could really put a lot of stress on Munguia. Rosado's last fight was also in June on the same card, and he fought a guy, Bektimir Melkiziev, and he dropped him. I mean, he got off the canvas, and he walked him into a right hand and knocked him out, one punch, and impressive knockout. So Gabe's obviously going to be an underdog in this fight, but he is a guy that can come out there and really make a hell of a show out of it. And if he wins, I wouldn't even call it an upset, because he is that dangerous and quality of a fighter. Let's see what else we got on that card. Go to 11:13, and we are going to go back to Anaheim, California, and I'll let Rich really do the rest of the schedule. I'm just going to really focus on this one here. So Rich and Tom will tell you about what else is going on Friday night, what else is going on Saturday night. So we have a flyweight, Arely Mucino, 29-3-2 versus Jackie Calvo, 14-6-2. Diego De La Hoya, I don't think he's related to Oscar, 22-1 versus Jose Santos Gonzalez, 23-9-1. Dimitri Ballard, 20-0-1 versus Paul Valenzuela, 26-9. Here's an interesting one. William Zepeda, 23-0 versus John Vincent Moralde for the World Boxing Association Continental's lightweight title. No Jesus fights on the week, so he must have off. turning water into wine. You know, he's a very busy guy this time of year. You know, getting ready for his birthday in about a month or so. So that's really what I wanted to focus on for this weekend's card. Also, I'd be remiss to, you know, not bring it up at least once. I've talked about it a few times. I'm in the last few days of getting ready for the Rocky Run this weekend in Center City, Philadelphia, and really looking forward to it. Did a practice training run last night. Felt pretty good. I was talking to my dad tonight, and we were joking about how competitive I am. And I know with the attire that I'm going to run in, it's not going to be easy. I'm going to feel like Deontay Wilder walking to the ring for the second fight with Tyson Fury. Now the costume weighed me down. That's why I didn't put in a good performance. The costume was too heavy. But I'm doing this run dressed as the Rocky III Hulk Hogan Thunderlips character. And I have one of them foam costume muscle suits, which can be kind of bulky and uncomfortable. I got a pair of white shorts because Hogan in the movie wore white trunks. I got the red compression socks that go up to my knees because he wore red boots in the movie. And then I got the replica of the Thunderlips cape, a blonde wig, a white fedora. I'm going to run in a championship belt. We do have to wear a mask down there, except for the run part of it. You have to wear the mask actually while you're walking up to the line, and as soon as you're done. The mask I have is a replica of Hulk Hogan's face with his trademark mustache. And I was saying to my dad, this run, yeah, I'm excited about it, but I really want to put on a good show. Don't really care about what time I do, because I know what I'm going to be wearing is not going to be an easy outfit to run in. But then I was like, you know what, my competitive nature is going to kick in, and I'm going to try to bust my ass and put up a good time. Whether I do or I don't know, but hey, we'll see. I will send you guys photos, and I will post them. I'm sure Rich will post them on the website as well. And then my last topic of the night, before I shut this down, send it over to Rich, and then get ready to call it a night, is what I did this past Tuesday. I was able to make a travel up to my alma mater, Lock Haven University, and made a stop in for boxing practice. First time I've attended practice actually in probably about a good 10 years. I did it a few times back when I wasn't working, and I was like, hey, you want me to come up to practice? I'll take a 3-hour drive. So I made arrangements with Ken Cooper. I got to see the Lock Haven's new boxing gym, which I was really impressed. And they had about 7 or 8 guys there training. There's another guy on, I think they had maybe 8 or 9. And they had another guy on the team that wasn't, I believe he was in ROTC that night, so he couldn't be there. So Coach Cooper let me come in, watch these guys train, talk to them a little bit, and then he asked me just to, tell them some real life stories. And I went to tell them a story about sparring at the prison. And I looked at the neutral corner, the white corner, and I said, it's not this exact corner, but, and Cooper looked at me and says, that is actually the gym, the ring that we used to have at the prison. I said, so it is exactly this corner, this very corner right here, where my career could have went in 2 different directions. And I said that night, I was barely 18 years old, and I'm telling these kids that were, some of them were 18, 19, one of them I think was 22, relatively young guys. And I said, I did want to go to the prison that night, and obviously I was a little bit, scared, for lack of a better term. And I was the last guy to spar that night because I was the heaviest of our group, and I stepped in there with a guy that would have made Mike Tyson run and hide. And he was looking at me, and his hardened, mean face, and I was scared. I mean, I'll fully admit I was scared to death. And he was like a shark that smelled blood. And he knocked me down in the first round. He stepped on my foot, punched me in the mouth, knocked me on my butt, And he stood over me and just sneered at me. And I didn't want to be there anymore. And I'm telling these kids this. And then I said, second round, he trapped me in this neutral corner right here. And I'm looking over to my left to our corner, the red corner. And I'm looking at Dr. Cox and I'm praying he was going to stop this. And Doc saw something in me. He felt there was still a little bit left in me, more that I didn't think it was there anymore. And my ass was sitting on the second rope almost, and I was, bending down. I was almost turning away as this guy was raining blows down on me. Felt like he had 6 gloves, and they were hitting me at will, and I'm covering up. And I remember in that moment, I was like, I have 2 choices here. I can go down. I can just say, you know what, I'm scared. I'm done. I ain't got this. And I can go down. Or I can, I just kept thinking about everybody that I was promised that I was a fighter. And I said, I'm just going to throw one. I'm just going to throw one and see what happens. And I threw one. I threw a Hail Mary. And like I said, if it was Rocky 4, this is where I land the big punch on Drago, and you cut him, and hey, he cut him, you hurt him, he's not a machine, he's a man. Well, I didn't cut him, I didn't hurt him. I didn't even really land cleanly, but I landed somewhere in the vicinity of his shoulder, and he stepped back and he nodded at me, and he goes, all right, you got heart, kid. And like I said, I can't say that the third round was on even terms. He was still pretty much kicking my ass, but I fought back. And he pulled me aside and told me, he goes, you know what? He goes, I wanted to test you, make sure you had heart. And you do. And I pulled those kids aside that night, and I said, listen, right there in this very corner, my career could have went one or two ways. And I could have went down and walked out of that gym, and I wouldn't be on this show right now, and my life would be in a hell of a different place. But I threw that one left hook, because we all always got one left hook inside of us. And I hope they took that from me and they learned a little bit. I was very proud to tell them that story. And Coach Cooper was also proud to tell them about my 5 weight classes in the span of 2 months. He says, he laughed, and we joked about me, being in the sauna and spitting in a cup and getting on the scale without a stitch of clothing on, with the opposing coach putting his foot on the scale, watching it go up to 195 and me almost having a coronary. But it was good to be back there. It was good to walk to town again. I took my dad up on the levee where I used to run, training for fights, and I really, really enjoyed being there. With that, I'm going to end my portion of this at about 25 minutes. I'm going to turn it over, let Rich and Tom do their thing, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for listening. This is the Tornado. Peace and out. Rocky 4 tomorrow night.